Ever feel like your grandparents could buy a house on one good salary and a handshake while you need 3 side hustles and a miracle? You're not imagining things. Back then, one steady paycheck was enough to grab a comfy suburban home, 2 kids, a dog, and a Chevy parked out front. Fast forward to today, you're hustling harder than ever, clocking 50-hour weeks, yet your dream house feels further away with every paycheck. So, what's really going on? It's not some mysterious conspiracy. Housing is expensive for reasons you might not expect. We're going to dive into why zoning laws are choking new builds, how short-term rentals have reshaped neighborhoods, and how low interest rates actually drove prices sky high. Most importantly, we'll talk about what you can realistically do about it. But please be sure to subscribe to the channel to be part of our community. Let's break this down. Well, our first part is why housing keeps getting more and more expensive. Let's roll back the clock to 2008. The housing bubble bursts, dragging the world economy down with it. Builders stopped hammering nails into wood. Construction cranes vanished from city skylines. For over a decade, America didn't build enough homes, not even close. Now, here's the real kicker. We're short about 4.5 million houses. Picture this clearly. That's like an entire major city, think Los Angeles, completely missing from our housing supply. It's not a theoretical problem. It's a physical gap you can practically see in every desperate bidding war, every open house packed with anxious young couples holding their breath, praying their bid will be enough. Let's zoom in further, right into your own neighborhood. Notice something? Those cozy townhouses or modest apartment buildings you'd expect to pop up just aren't there. It's no accident. Layer upon layer of strict zoning laws have quietly transformed cities into gated communities without gates. Neighbors worried about their property values, city councils wary of change, everyone whispering the same unspoken phrase, "Not in my backyard." Imagine standing in front of an empty lot where affordable housing could have been, blocked by a labyrinth of rules and regulations. Instead of apartments, there's silence and a rising sense of frustration. But this isn't just about empty lots. It's about cold, hard economics too. Picture a young couple, fresh off their wedding, hoping to buy their first home. They scan online listings and fall in love with a small 2-bedroom. They visit the bank, crunch the numbers, and suddenly reality hits. Mortgage rates have climbed from 3% to nearly 7%. What might have been manageable 2 years ago now looks more like a fantasy. They leave disappointed, stuck in their cramped apartment, dreams put on hold. Then there's the hidden squeeze you feel but rarely see. Construction materials doubling in price, labor becoming scarce, land values soaring. Imagine builders, once eager to erect new homes, now hesitating. Every plank, every brick is more expensive. They pause, do the math, and decide it just isn't profitable. Projects stall, homes remain half-finished, scaffolding abandoned like ghost towns. And just when you think it can't get worse, the climate comes into play. Insurance companies tally up the recent wildfires, hurricanes, and floods, shaking their heads at the increasing payouts. Your monthly insurance bill suddenly spikes. Picture your neighbor, someone who's never faced disaster, yet their premiums soar 30%. It's a quiet crisis, bills silently piling up in the mailbox, forcing some families to reconsider home ownership altogether. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, big money investors quietly scoop up entire neighborhoods. You've probably driven past them without realizing. Streets filled with identical homes, each owned by corporations and private equity firms. These aren't homes anymore. They're investment portfolios. Families searching for a place to put down roots face fierce competition from investors flush with cash. It's David versus Goliath, and Goliath almost always wins. All this while a new generation, millennials, comes knocking at the market's door, desperate for space as their families grow. They aren't just competing against each other. They're competing against history, against policy, against money itself. Every open house feels like a battlefield. Packed, tense, heartbreaking. And affordable housing? Forget it. Picture a single mother with 2 kids, her paycheck barely covering the essentials. She applies to affordable housing programs, only to find waiting lists stretching years into the future. There are 7 million fewer affordable units than needed. That number isn't just a statistic. It's millions of real people trapped, paying more and more for less and less. This isn't accidental. It's systemic, layered, complex. Housing didn't just randomly become unaffordable, it's the result of years of neglected construction, restrictive zoning, escalating costs, climate chaos, and aggressive investor activity. It's a story of quiet desperation playing out on every street, every city, every state. And it's exactly why housing keeps getting more and more expensive. Okay, but moving to the second part, what can you realistically do about it? Look, here's the thing nobody talks openly about. You can actually make money while buying a house. No, seriously, I'm not joking. I did this in my home country, Brazil. I have a house worth 40 million reais, which is a little less than $10 million, and I financed it, even though I had money in the account to pay for it. And I'm going to tell you why now, with math and numbers. So here's my breakdown. I bought a property for 40 million reais total. I put down 20%, that's 8 million reais, and financed the remaining 80%, which is 32 million reais over 420 months. Now, the interest rate in Brazil is absolutely insane. We're talking 9.72% CET. In the US, you're looking at around 7% right now, which is way better, but let me show you why this strategy still works even with Brazil's crazy rates. Here's the key. I had the full 40 million sitting in my account. I could have bought the house outright, but instead of doing that, I only used 8 million for the down payment and kept 32 million invested. Now, imagine you've got that 32 million earning money for you. In Brazil, you can get government bonds paying around 12 to 13% annually. That's higher than my mortgage rate of 9.72%. So every year, my 32 million is earning me roughly 4.16 million reais at 13%, while my mortgage is only costing me about 3.1 million in interest. I'm literally making money on the spread. But here's where it gets really interesting for you guys in the US. Your mortgage rates are around 7% right now, but you can invest that money in index funds that historically return 10-12% annually. Let's say you're conservative and assume 8% returns. You're still making money on that spread. And I must do just a disclaimer now. Here in Brazil, I invested in bonds, so I have the guarantee of a 13% return per year, and I know I'll get that back. In the United States, bonds don't pay as much because there are more people interested in investing in your public debt anyway. This leads you to invest in riskier things to get the same return, like the S&P 500, and it can happen that one year the return is negative 10% and the next it's 20% because it's variable income. So on average over the years it yielded 10%, 12%, but it may be that in some specific years it yields more or less. So it's not a perfect guarantee of a fixed return. Therefore, you can't count only on your passive income to pay the financing, or you have to have much more money than the price of the house you want to buy. But the strategy is still very good because in any case, there will be years when you will have a great return, and this will compensate for the bad years. You should also build a diversified portfolio. This strategy may lead you to a more solid annual return. For example, if you have some bonds, some Bitcoin, some crypto, some S&P 500, at any given time, at least one of these things will not depreciate, so it is a way to protect your assets. I do this. Look how impressive. Even though in my country bonds are paying 13 to 14%, I still invest in riskier things because I truly believe in a diversified portfolio. I could just leave my money in these insane bonds and go to sleep. Do you understand? Does it make sense? Now picture this. You're buying a $400,000 house. You put down $80,000 and finance $320,000 at 7%. Instead of using all your savings to buy the house outright, you invest that $320,000. At 8% annual returns, you're making $25,600 per year on your investments, while your mortgage interest is costing you about $22,400. You're literally profiting $3,200 annually just by being smart with leverage. The house is also appreciating, let's say 3% per year conservatively. That's another $12,000 in equity growth annually. So you're making money on three fronts: the investment spread, the home appreciation, and you're building equity through your payments. This is exactly what wealthy people do. They use use leverage to multiply their money instead of tying it all up in one asset. The key is having the discipline to actually invest that money instead of spending it on a boat or something crazy. This way, you take the money from the bank and use it to your advantage instead of drowning in debt. That's why one of my biggest pieces of advice, and one that I've always been judged for, is only pay in installments if you have cash in hand, because that's the best of all worlds. Insanely rich guys like Jeff Bezos literally live off loans, but that's because their money is invested and protected, giving them more money than the interest on the loan in the meantime. So the rule is clear. Save money, get your finances in order, and then buy a house, and you'll be in control of the game. You'll be ahead of most people, and you'll sleep much more peacefully at night. That's it, cousins. Stay invested.